Behind every one of my records is a story. This is just one of them. Alright, so check it out. This video is about the record Babe Ruth. The name of the album is called First Base. Now, this record is classic in several different ways. And I'm going to break down the different ways that this record has become a classic. So, let's start off by, how did I get this record? Well, like twice a year, there's like a record fair in town here. And yeah, so me and my daughter, we went to go check it out. You know, she's buying records now these days as a teenager, which is cool. And but man, she buys like, she's dropping money on records. I'm not doing that, dude, because I mean, I got a lot of records, and plus I'm from an era back in the late 80s, early 90s when I was buying a lot of records, used records, for super cheap, like $1, you know. Dropping $5 on a record back then was like something. But anyway, but I'm still looking, man. I mean, no way is my collection complete. It'll never be complete. But if I can fill some holes in my collection, you know, and it's fun too, just to be out there digging for records. You never know what you're going to find. So about a couple months ago, we went to this record fair, and this is probably, I don't know, fourth time I've been to this particular record meet, and I recognize some of the vendors, you know, and we get in there, and it's a pretty decent amount of people there. There's like two levels. They had like probably 15 to 20 different vendors. And so, you know, I'm going through and I'm checking them out, you know, and, you know, I go to this one guy. He has like pretty much most of his records are from like the 70s, early 80s, and it pretty much like classic rock, hard rock records. So you can just see from far away, like, you know, AC/DC, Van Halen, you know, Dire Straits. You kind of just see them from afar because you recognize the records, you know. But there was a lot of people, and I couldn't really start at the beginning of his collection. But I started like kind of in the middle, and you know, it's cool because this dude had like, you know, dividers, which if there were several records by the same artist, there was a divider that had the name of the artist on it, which is convenient to when you're looking through records. And so I started in the middle, whatever, and you know, I'm just looking, I see all the same records. I always see the same records at these record meets, you know, because I mean, the only ones that are like different are like the new releases, because artists are still putting out new records, new vinyl. And, you know, sometimes you see someone just selling new records, and they're expensive too, man. So anyway, dude, I'm checking this out. And then, so finally I work my way to the beginning, and, you know, I'm looking through, you know, the A's, and I get to the divider, which is like, you know, the B's, just B through like C or D, something like that. So I'm looking, man, and I'm just looking, and all of a sudden I flip a record, dude, and bam, I see this one, dude. Now, I got excited. I mean, you know, when you find something like just a record, I mean, I got a lot of records that I want, you know, that I wish I had. You just never know which one's going to pop up. And dude, I've known what this record was for probably over 30 years. And I knew what it was before I even seen how the record looked. I remember the first time I saw how this record looked, like I saw an image of it. I think it was in some kind of magazine or something. And I was like, oh man, that's what that looks like, you know? Because I never seen this record in the wild, dude. Like, all the times I was at flea markets or yard sales or used record stores or even at friends' homes who have record collections too, looking through their records. Never seen this, dude. And I was just thinking, man, this is so abstract, so obscure, and yet it's a super classic. Now, let me tell you why this record is classic. First and foremost, in New York in the 70s, we're talking pre-hip hop New York, when hip hop was starting to form, get started. Uh, the DJs were playing all these block parties and in the parks and stuff, and eventually, the DJs realized that the crowd, they're going crazy at certain parts of the record, pretty much the part where the record, the break of the record, which is where the drums take over or where it gets stripped down to just percussion and maybe just a bass. The energy goes way up and the party goes wild. So eventually the hip hop DJs, which, like I said, pre hip hop DJs, they started playing just the breaks. And to extend the breaks, like the same break, you had to get 2 copies of the same record. So you could play the break, and then when the break was getting ready to end, then you start it over on the other turntable and keep that break going. Some DJs probably weren't that savvy to keep the beat on time during the transition, but as long as that break is going and going for like 4 or 5 minutes, the energy just gets hot, man. And eventually, B-boys started breaking, MCs started getting on the mic and doing rhymes, and the DJ started catching the break faster and faster. And so there you go. Before you know it, bam, you have hip hop. All right. So some of the breaks that they were playing were more hype than others. Eventually the DJs figure out what records are the hottest breaks to play. And one that was in heavy rotation, this one right here, man. Babe Ruth. Now, the song that they were playing on this album, the song is called The Mexican. And the song starts out with just the bass and the drums, and then it goes into this guitar, solo. And it's just, man, it's super hype. I can understand if you're at a party and that record comes on, dude. Obviously, the crowd's gonna feel that energy, and then the whole energy level is just gonna go up a notch. So this record, and there's other ones too. Probably, at least a good 40 classic breaks came out of that time. I'm talking like super classic breaks. Obviously, there's more than just that were being played, but there's about 40 songs, that are just the anthem of pre-hip hop New York, right? And kind of like the DNA of hip hop music are in these breaks. And that song, The Mexican, is one of those classic break records from that time. And so, check out the album cover too, man. You got this like astronaut, swinging a bat, and there's this other astronaut, whatever, that's on like a shark pitching the ball, dude. Dude, this is totally psychedelic, man, and very strange. This is not the typical album cover, but it just adds to the whole record being legendary and obscure, man. This record was made, and it was probably, made to be sold to. This is like considered, I guess, prog rock, because it's kind of like there's a lot of jamming on the record. It's not like pop music, like pop rock. It's definitely rock, but it's like prog rock is what I guess it is. Anyway, man, this record was intended for people who were like into that obscure kind of underground rock from the 70s. Little did anyone know that this was going to be one of the anthems of the early hip hop era from the 70s? I mean, no one could have known that, dude. And but this record, like I said, it's one of those, dude. So anyway, and another thing, dude, a bonus. This record has a cover of a Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention song called King Kong. I mean, that song King Kong by Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention is just like a, I mean, who's going to cover that song, dude? It's like such a, it's not the kind of song you cover, dude. It's not a hit, not in the sense of the word, like radio friendly and everyone knows what it is kind of hit. I guess it was one of the Frank Zappa hits of the time, and I remember I saw on YouTube there was a BBC recording of the Mothers of Invention, and they did a broadcast, a live broadcast, and the first song they played was King Kong, and that predates this record, I guess 2 years, maybe 3 years. So I think it's safe to say that Babe Ruth was inspired by Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, and probably that's why they covered it. And it's a good cover too. If you never heard that song, man, look it up, dude. King Kong. It's dope. So anyway, yeah, man. So let me tell you why this record is classic. Not only is it one of these classic break anthems of pre-hip hop New York, it's also when hip hop got established to the point where they started to release, quote unquote hip hop music. There's a record called Planet Rock by Africa Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force, produced by Arthur Baker, doing the beats, all the synth work. And so when Bambaataa got the chance to make this record, he was telling the producers, hey, I want to incorporate some of these old school breaks that we used to play in the 70s. I want to incorporate that in the song somehow. So I'm pretty sure none of this was cleared either. But so they replayed some of the parts of some of these, I think it was like 5 breaks that they used. One was obviously Trans-Europe Express by Kraftwerk, and another one is The Mexican by Babe Ruth. So if you listen to Planet Rock, there's a part in Planet Rock where there's a breakdown where there's just kind of like a rubber band sounding synthesizer doing a solo, and it's from The Mexican. It's lifted straight from this record, man. I'm pretty sure they got sued for it too. Anyway, I think Kraftwerk definitely sued them for using their, Trans-Europe Express music on that record. So anyway, but Planet Rock was a breakthrough record. That thing was like, that was pretty much the introduction to hip hop for a lot of people, not just in the USA, man, in the world, dude. That record was worldwide. And it was so different too, man. This electronic kind of futuristic dance. And then you got these like MCs from the Bronx doing rhymes, back-to-back rhymes on top of it. And man, it's just far out, dude. That's all I can say, man. So that's one way that this record is also classic. Another way is there's a DJ. His name is Jellybean Benitez. Back in the days, he went by Jellybean, and I think he was a DJ at the Funhouse, a club in New York, where some old school hip hop performances took place there too. One, Here We Go Live at the Funhouse, Run DMC. If you don't know what that is, that was recorded at the Funhouse in New York. So anyway, Jellybean was a resident DJ there, and so he too started to make records. And I think I think it was 1984, he put out a cover of the Mexican. Now, at this point in 1984, I don't know anything about this record. I don't know that it's played in Planet Rock. I don't know that it's was played by DJs in the parks in New York in the 70s, pre-hip hop era. I don't know that B-boys, breakers from the 70s, this was one of their favorite breaks to dance to. I knew none of this, man. So, but then when Jellybean released his cover of the Mexican, man, the album cover was, album cover of the year. So the album cover was just plastered with graffiti. Now, also during that time, no internet, no news coverage, no movies showing anything. So the graffiti that I was exposed to in, 1983, 84, it was pretty much like commercial graffiti, just maybe record labels just trying to, put some kind of street style on the record just to sell it as, hey, this is the new hip hop thing, but not like wild style graffiti, but just super commercial kind of graffiti. But this Jellybean record had just, wild style graffiti. And it was just, you could see that record cover from across the room. When you walk in the record store, it just popped. And it was like, whoa, what's this? So obviously it's like, yo, this is some hip hop stuff right here. You gotta consider, dude, hip hop is still like new. Like, they don't even have like a section of hip hop records, really. I mean, hip hop records are kind of mixed in with R&B records, So no one knows what's going on yet. So anyway, getting excited about this record, and then, you tell the guy at the store, hey, you got a copy of this? Can you play this? And the guy plays the record, and the song sucks. Like, it's not even cool, man. It's like what the heck is this, man? It just didn't. It sounded like some just dance record. It didn't sound like there was no rapping, there was no scratching. I mean, there was no hard beat to it. It just sounded like some dance record, Had I known the history of the Mexican, I might have appreciated it a little more, but I knew nothing, dude. But the reason why that is classic is not only because it's a cover of the Mexican, which is another sign that how famous this record is, It's also that album cover is a classic album cover because the graffiti is done by Scene and Duster, who were at that time the contemporary graffiti kings of that time. I think it's definitely Scene, undisputed godfather of graffiti. No one's gonna say that he wasn't on top during the late 70s, early 80s. Him and Lee, I think, were just the kings of graffiti at that time. So that is classic in itself too. All right. So now I mentioned classic break. It's on another classic hip hop record, Planet Rock. It's on. Jellybean does a cover of it with the classic graffiti kings, Scene and Duster on there. And now another thing is that I did a record with this dude MC Time back in the days. Cutmaster Kurt produced it, and the name of the song was "Brown is Down," dude. Like Mexican pride. So anyway, I did the cuts on that record, and the samples that were used on that record from the Mexican, dude. Straight up the Babe Ruth vinyl sample of the Mexican, a straight up Cutmaster Kurt track. It appears on Acid Jazz Volume 1. Acid Jazz is like a compilation. I think it came out in 1989, 1990. And it was just a compilation of different kinds of dance and hip hop, kind of jazz, kind of, they just called it acid jazz. That's all I know, dude. And all I know is that that song We Did is on there, dude. And the sample that is used is the Mexican. So that ties into me too, man. Right? So now the final thing I'm going to say about this record is that, yeah, man, I just got this record, like I said, a couple months ago. So this is new to my collection. And just to let you know how classic this record is, I mean, it is still 100% relevant. And the reason why I say that is because, they had breaking in the Olympics this year. 2024, man, in France, dude, Paris. Breaking. I never thought that would happen, dude. Crazy, right? So I'm watching it, and it was streaming for 2 days. I saw it. So now here we have the last battle of the breaking in the Olympics is the battle for the gold medal in the men's breaking competition. The men's breaking finals in the Olympics, dude. And I think it's Dann. I think that's the dude's name. French dude. Super sick. And Phil Wizard, Canadian dude. It's those two in the finals, dude. 3 rounds. And this is historic, man. We're like talking breaking in the Olympics, which is pretty much hip hop in the Olympics, right? So not just the dance, but they're playing hip hop beats and stuff as they're breaking. So they go round 1, they go round 2, and it's like, it's close. They go round 3, and guess which song they play for the final round in the men's gold medal for breaking in the Olympics 2024. Bam. They play this song, dude. The Mexican by Babe Ruth. Dude, this song has been a hip-hop classic since the early 70s. So we're talking like pretty much almost like 50 years this record has been relevant to hip-hop in a classic way. So all this that I said to you, everything that I've said about this record, all of that went into my mind when I saw it. And I was flipping through the records and I saw it and I picked it up and I was all, dude, this record, damn. You know what, man? My budget was like $20. The dude wanted $20 for this. I'm like, here you go, sir. Thank you very much. I just got a classic from your collection, and I don't even think you know. So anyway, yeah, Babe Ruth, first base, finally got it. Well, I hope you liked this video. I have other records to share, and until then, I'm going to say this all the time. Peace and vinyl.